My talk today is loving this body, and we are following the CSL theme of living everyday wonder. That's the theme for the year, and this month it's the body, and today it's about loving our bodies. And before we can love our bodies, it's important to understand that have this understanding we were created in love, we are one with love. And sometimes when you say, oh, we have to love our bodies, there's resistance, right? I don't know if I can do that. My hair's not right, and my shoulder hurts, and this hurts, and I don't look good, or whatever. We have all this resistance. So for today, I felt before we could talk about loving ourselves, we need to understand, before we could talk about loving the body, we need to understand about loving ourselves, the whole self, the spirit, mind, body, and emotion. From Louise Hay, the divine teacher of the body. In fact, that in that video clip, the last clip with the baby standing in the mirror, Louise was instrumental in that mirror work of looking into the mirror and saying, I love you. Every day that I love you just the way you are. And so it was so appropriate that the last clip was this baby doing that. And so what Louise says is, I continue to explain that no matter what the problem seems to be, there's only one thing I ever work on with anyone, and this is loving the self. Love is the miracle cure. Loving ourselves works miracles in our lives. And so we need to, just as I was saying, we have to love the whole self. And when we do that, we respect ourselves. We respect and love our bodies. That we honor who we are and why we are here. And as a result, we have a greater tendency to care and love for our bodies. James O'Day, the author of Soul Awakening Prayer, says, love is the uniting movement of existence. It is the ceaseless flow of life-giving power, forever offering itself as vital nourishment of all that creates wholeness and harmony. So love is the uniting movement of existence. Love is the divine energy moving in and through and as all of life. We call it the universal flow, energy, the force, the presence, God. And so love is always flowing. There's no stopping it. We're the only one that stops it. But we don't always have that experience that love is always flowing, right? Love is not something that we have to get better. We are already loved. We are already perfect. Love is oftentimes we think love is something we need and we strive for. We think we have to invent love or bring love to ourselves. We forget we were born into love, that our pure existence is love. James O'Day continues to say, you do not have to invent love. Love arises naturally out of gratefulness and deep peace. But because it is surrounded by complicated tensions such as fear of rejection, needs of recognition and affirmation, our relationship to love can get quite complicated. We find ourselves trying to make it happen or frantically trying to upgrade it from a weak force to a stronger one. And so we get caught in this swirling of our need to be loved and our desire to find it, instead of standing still and knowing that we have it. So, if love is the ceaseless flow of life-giving power, how do we tap into that? I'm so glad you asked. I have a great example. In an airplane, the pilot sets the plane on autopilot. So from LA to New York, there are thousands of times that the plane traveling goes off course, maybe because of wind speed or turbulence or other factors. So this plane that's flying will go off course. Well, the autopilot just corrects it and brings it back. Goes off course, corrects it, and brings it back. Every time, the autopilot will bring it back. Now, it doesn't make anyone wrong. It just simply corrects the course. So this is similar to our spiritual journey. Let's say we set an intention to be the presence of love. And then as I say I'm the presence of love and I'm driving down the street and someone drives in front of me and cuts me off. It shakes me up. I get a little angry. I feel resentful. It throws me off the course. Or let's say someone at work doesn't follow up on their part of the project, and now you have to pick up the slack. Now there's stress, again, resentment. Nerves are frayed. You notice that your back starts to hurt, you start to get a headache, a pain in the neck. Did you ever connect that? Does anyone have a pain in the neck that you can connect where that source is? If we are not paying attention to what's happening to the events around us, we lose the presence of love. Then we allow our emotions to take control, and that we end up in a downward spiral. We forgot to course correct. We forgot to bring ourselves back. That as we go off course, we bring ourselves back. We remember the presence of love. We remember the allness of who we are. We come into that place of remembering, and we correct that. So that's why it's so important for us to be mindful. We have to stay focused in mindfulness. We need to listen, to be aware, and to be present. Now, in this time of instant technology, that can be a challenge, can't it? There are so many things vying for our attention. There's noise constantly. There's sound. There's beeping from a phone, a computer. I noticed I was out somewhere and someone's phone was beeping, and I kept looking at my phone. It's like, it's not mine. It's like beeping gets our attention. If it's not the phone, then it's the microwave, or it could be this, or it could be that. That we're just surrounded with all of this that distracts us, takes us away from staying on course. When we don't practice mindfulness, after a while, we are maybe hesitant to be in the silence. There was a study done at the University of Virginia a few years ago, and researchers put participants in a sparsely furnished room, and they told them that they actually took away their cell phones, pens, paper, they took away everything, and they asked them to sit and think. So, how would you feel about that? Some people, they gave a topic to think about, and others, they told them you could think about whatever you wanted. And then, when they were finished, they answered a brief survey about the experience, and the findings were mixed. Some people liked it, some people didn't like it. But then they took it a step further. The team of researchers left the participants alone in a lab for 15 minutes and told them they could think about whatever they wanted. And in addition to that, they were wired to a machine, like a machine was wired to their hand, and that they could push a button and they would give themselves an electric shock. And so you have the choice. You can sit and think about nothing. And by the way, if you push this button, you'll get an electric shock in your hand. The results were startling. Even though when they pre-surveyed the participants, they stated they would pay money to avoid being shocked with electricity. Even though they said that, 67% of the men and 25% of the women chose to give themselves an electric shock rather than sit in the quiet and think. Why would you do that? Well, my guess is it's so uncomfortable that we have trained ourselves to constantly be doing this, constantly be doing this, or whatever it is, that we're always attached to doing something. To sit and think can be painful, can be difficult. And so we would rather have this distraction than rather think about our feelings and listen to the inner voice. Because what happens is we notice what we're thinking. And then maybe there's some pain there's some grief, there's some confusion or uncertainty. We don't want to hear that. So we stop it instead of listening. Mindfulness is so very important for us. Scientists are doing research on how mindfulness or paying attention, works in the brain. And there was a TED Talk by Amishi J. And they said that, remember the statement that human beings only use 10% of our brain capacity? Mm-hmm. No, that statement is entirely false. We use 100% of our brain capacity. Our brain is fully utilized and it works beautifully. The brain suffers from information overload. Too much in the environment to process. So in our evolution, we learned that the solution is to pay attention. Attention is the leader of the brain. It's the brain's boss. Paying attention is the brain's boss. Attention is very powerful in affecting our perception. And it's also fragile. And that stress and the mind wandering diminishes our attention's power. We take our mind away from the task at hand so easily. Does your mind ever wander? Have you ever gotten in the car and driven somewhere and then not know how you got there? Thank goodness you get there safely, but how did I get here? The mind was just so active, going on with all of these thoughts and all of this activity. We can time travel very easily, can't we? We reflect on the past or forward to the future. We do it so often, we do it without our awareness. Researchers say 50% of our waking moments, our mind is wandering. Pretty amazing. When we allow our minds to wander without our awareness, we make errors. We miss information. We can have difficulty making decisions. When we experience stress, we ruminate, we relive, we worry, we regret events that already happened. And so it's one thing to talk about spiritual practice, but imagine the significance of someone in the military, or say a firefighter or a first responder. So scientists are doing research to give these first responders tools. So the opposite of a stressed and wandering mind is mindfulness. So mindfulness is that paying attention, being in the moment. It's not just a concept, but a practice. And they found with mindfulness training, people are able to maintain their awareness, that they are more present, more discerning, more compassionate. I wish Ernest Holmes, and I'm sure from his afterlife, he can see what has happened, because Ernest has said this all along. Change your thinking, change your life. He taught us that a trained mind is infinitely more powerful than an untrained mind. So he's been teaching, he taught this for years, and we've studied this for years, and this is the truth we know. And now science is doing it. And the power with all of this is that we are aware in the moment. We are present in the moment. And so I know you're probably wondering, what does this have to do with love? James O'Day, remember, said that love is a ceaseless flow of life-giving power. Love is always there. We have to be receptive to it. We have to be in alignment with it in order to receive it, in order to accept all the love that the universe has to offer. If my mind is wandering and I'm not paying attention, I forget that I'm one with love. I forget that the universe is present here for me. I get distracted and I forget, and I fall out of love because I make that intention to be that presence of love. And then as soon as someone cuts off in front of me or says something, there's the block, and I get distracted and I go off course. So love is available to us. Our job is to stay present with it. Now we know in our spiritual work that we can use the discipline of spiritual practice. That when we do that, we open to the light, to the love, to that divine energy that's moving, and we can connect with that love. We can focus on practices such as gratitude, joy, compassion. We can raise our vibration and connect with that presence of love. Now, let's circle back. What does this have to do with the body? We tend to take the body for granted, don't we? When it works, we're happy. Oh, I'm having a great day. Everything's working. I feel good. But when it doesn't, not so much, right? Pain can be debilitating. Limitation in the body, maybe not being able to walk or not being able to use our hands, or something hurt and limits us, or there's back pain. Any of that creates tension in the body, and it's so much harder, so much more difficult to love the body, isn't it? So it's remembering that we are love. Remembering love is always flowing, is always present, and that we just have to remember to tie into it, and then bring that love back to ourselves, appreciating the body, loving the body, regardless of how it's feeling or what's going on. Remembering to love the body. When we awaken to the fact that we were born into love, that we breathe love, that the creative process of life is love, then why would I not love my body? Why would I not respect my body or honor my body, or be tender with it when it hurts? Take time for it when I need rest. It's a reminder that we're holistic, the wholeness that we are, spirit, mind, body, and emotions, is the holistic presence that embodies us. We are so trained by society to judge and to criticize, to ridicule and punish our bodies. We forget that they are a vehicle of expression. And that's how I like to think of my body. It's a vehicle of expression. It's the housing for my soul. It's the encasement for the allness of who I am. I had the privilege of seeing Jean Houston a few years ago. She was in Portland at the time, and I got to see her in person. And I have written down this quote, and I've gone back to it so many times. This is what she said. She says, "You have to realize that you are not just an encapsulated bag of skin dragging around a dreary little ego. Rather, you are a being for which the powers of nature and spirit are brimming and brewing beneath the surface crust of consciousness, having you go out into the world and profoundly make a difference. If you are willing to do it, the universe says, hot dog, we've got a live one there. Let's put them into a higher office of higher humanity." She says, "We don't live in the universe lives in us." She says, "This is a time to elect yourself to a new state of embodiment. Understand yourself that you can step out and make a difference in a larger way." What she's saying with all of this is she's calling us to celebrate ourselves, to celebrate our bodies, to celebrate the potential of all that we have, the potential of what we can do, what we can be, what we can express in the world. One of my favorite authors, Paul Selig, from the Book of Love and Creation, he says, "Not to love the self is an act of selfishness." It is an act of selfishness because you have decided on some level that the self is not worthy of love. Wow. That the self is not, that the self, on some level, the self decided that you are not worthy of love. And frankly, he says, who are you to decide that? It makes you God. The aspect of you that is God is part of a larger source. But to differentiate yourself by saying, I don't deserve love, turns off the faucet so that love does not flow. Powerful, right? He says this calls for faith and understanding, a complete conviction that God is right where we are. Life is speaking through us, and that the law of life is obeying our will. Words without this awareness have no power. Spiritual awareness is the healing agency loosed through your word. Your word and my word has power. Your inward consciousness pours the fire of conviction into the form of your intellectual affirmation. You and I are on this journey of faith together. We tend to go off course, but we know that we have the tools to get back on track. So we know that we are love. We go off course, but we bring ourselves back. The message today, remember, pay attention, respect yourself, respect your body. Praise your body. Have you been doing the praising prayer for your body? I praise my body. I raise my body in the name of love. Do it for your parts. I praise my knees. Anybody else's knees hurt? I praise my knees. I raise my knees in the name of love. I praise my life. I raise my life in the name of love. Praise your body. Cherish your body. Pay attention. When you need rest, rest. When you're in pain, take care of the pain. When you're grieving, Feel the grief. Do what you need to do to take care of your body. It's the sacred vehicle of expression. Remember to love your body. Let's take this into prayer. Oh, how grateful I am to be in this sacred space. How grateful I am that we are together in this beautiful community. And right now, I remember that love is a noun, love is a verb, love is a presence, love is an action, love is an energy, love is an emotion. Love is the ceaseless presence moving in and through and as each one of us each day. There is no place where God is not, and this energy of love is constantly flowing and nurturing and loving us unconditionally. And so in turn, I know that today we love our bodies, we honor our bodies, we respect them and give thanks for them. We're grateful for them. We're grateful that they house this beautiful soul of expression, and that each day we go out into the world to be that expression of life, that expression of spirit, that expression of the allness, that everything that is God. How grateful we are to be that expression in the world. How grateful we are for this body, for this mind, for this spiritual self, for this embodiment. And so I know each one of us has been blessed today, that we are lifted up into that awareness, that we are lifted up knowing our word has power, knowing that we live in that power and presence of God, which is love. And that love continues to circulate as the breath. And the breath is that divine reminder of the inflow and the inhale and the exhale, the inflow and the outflow, that divine circulation. We acknowledge the amazing parts of our bodies, how the organs work, the joints and the muscles all work together for this beautiful being that we have. So how grateful I am. We honor this, we bless it, we give thanks for it. And so I know as we go out into our day, we continue to stay on course. And very simply, when we go off course, we remember that we are loved, that we are one with the infinite and the divine. And so I give grateful thanks for each of these beloveds here today, knowing how love surrounds and blesses us. I release this word with deep gratitude, and together we affirm, and so it is.